Okay, folks. So, as I said earlier, welcome to our District Digital Forum. This is a place to gather and explore subjects together. We are changing the format a little bit this week so we can have a bit more of a focus at the beginning of this time and then have opening question and answers later. We will be recording the first part and then we'll kind of stop the recording so people can ask questions and don't be put off by the recording button. So it's going to come to a bit about making the most out of Facebook. I'm joined by Emily. Would you like to say anything about yourself or introduce yourself formally, Emily?
Yeah, so I'm Emily. I'm the comms and digital lead for within the district office team. So I've been working in the district office now for just shy of 2.5 years. And you might also recognise me because I also work for Leeds Sanctuary in the city centre. So I have 4 children, all primary school age, and being a part of the digital world is really not an option for me. In part because of the kids, I have to engage with all sorts of digital comms from school and different clubs and classes that they go to. But I love the digital world because I've actually found lots of community on there. So I run a life group through my church for mums, which is great because we can build community on an evening during the week, which we might not otherwise be able to do because we're doing bedtime or kids are ill or whatever else is going on. And while we know that digital spaces can sometimes be toxic places, that's probably not news to any of you. We also know that they can be really encouraging and nurturing and supportive places. And I really believe it's really important for the church to be on social media and in digital spaces because we have all of the tools that we need to really make digital spaces healthy and make them a lot better for everybody.
Bless you. Thank you, Emily. I should say that, yeah, my name is Reverend Mark as well. I'm the Digital District Church Enabler. District Digital Church. Yeah, I got that the right way around. And that always trips me up. And basically, I've been in post for over a year and a half, something like that. And yeah, I've been involved with Facebook, I think, since I was first on it over 16 years ago, 17 years ago. But I've been involved with IT stuff for many years. I remember doing my A levels with IT and creating websites with HTML in the original format, and been all throughout my ordained kind of ministry, 14 and a bit years. I've been involved with Facebook in one shape or other. One of my noticeable bits, I guess, or one of the noticeable bits is that I am one of the administrators for Methodists Online, which is now entering its just in July, it will be 10 years old. So that's how we've kind of been engaging with Facebook groups and Facebook in a Methodist capacity. So we are going to be kind of entering into talking about making best use of Facebook, and it kind of divides down into 3 kind of categories. And I'm going to hand over to Emily in a moment to talk about the first one. We're going to, which is a notice board, and then the second part is about engaging, and then the third part is community. And I think I'll pick up on the third, and we'll have a bit more of a mixture in the middle. So I'll hand over to Emily.
Thanks, Mark. So I guess I'd preface all of this with the fact that there is no one correct strategy for using Facebook. So if you, as we go through, if you have different ideas, and even afterwards, if you would like some help or even just a sounding board for the best ways to use your Facebook presence as a church or a circuit, then please get in touch with me or Mark, and we'll be happy to have a chat with you about that later. So I guess the first way that someone may use a Facebook page is to use it as a notice board. So quite similarly to using the physical notice board that you have outside of your church building. To post something effectively, it's a really good idea to share some text plus an eye-catching image. So if you create a poster to go on your physical notice board, you might take an image from that poster and the text from it to share on Facebook. The text can be invitational, so you can ask questions like, why not come and join us? What are you doing on XYZ day? Are you interested in whatever topic? And you can use things like emojis as bullet points. So sometimes you might have come across this yourself. If you see a post on Facebook with quite a lot of text and quite a lot of information, it's very easy to just scroll past because it feels like a lot to take in. So if you have a lot of information that you would like to deliver within the text of your Facebook post, using emojis as bullet points is a really nice way to split that up and make it a bit more bite-sized for people. Text is also great because if you have people in your communities whose first language isn't English or who are using screen readers, then they can still access all of the information that you would like them to access to know what is going on in your church and community. When selecting an image, as well as making it something that is appropriate and eye-catching, it should also have been taken by you, someone you know, or used with permission, or from a free-to-use website such as Unsplash. I won't go into too much detail on images today because Mark and I are going to have a similar digital forum discussion on that. I think is that in 2 months' time, Mark? You're nodding. So yeah, so we'll go with that, and we'll send the details out for that as well after this session. But yeah, just a quick note there on images. And then as you build confidence, or if you're already quite confident with technology, you can use software such as Canva to create graphics. And the beauty of that is that if you create one graphic, you might spend some time creating that initial one. You can edit that over and over and over again. And that creates sort of a visual recognition in your Facebook posts according to what you're sharing information about. So in this way, it's really engaging for people in that your audience on your Facebook page can comment on the post to ask questions, which of course then you can respond to. They can also tag other people that they want to share the information with, or if it's somebody that already comes to, say, if it's a church service on a Sunday morning, you might have somebody that already comes who wants to invite another person. So they might tag them in that post in the comments section, or they can share that post to their personal Facebook profile or to the Facebook profile of another. That post can also be shared into local community Facebook groups. So I don't know if any of you are part of a Facebook community group. I live in Yeadon in Leeds, and there's 3 or 4 in this area that are really useful for finding out about things that are going on, so children's activities, or people will share if there's been a road traffic accident and you need to divert, people will share all that sort of information. So you can actually share your Facebook posts into those community groups, and that is a really simple and quick way to share what's going on in your church and your community with the wider community around you. If you work with other local organisations, you can also tag them in your posts, and again, that's just spreading the word even more widely across your wider community. And it's also sharing with your audience that you are involved in the community around you. So you're not just a church sort of sitting isolated within your community, but you're actually part of the wider community, supporting those people as well. And then finally, thinking about using Facebook as a notice board, you might have come across Facebook ads. And Facebook ads can be a really good tool and a really good function. And it's made all the more easy if you're already putting out really informative Facebook posts. But we're not going to go too much into that today. If you have a specific question about ads, I can answer that at the end, or any time in the future if you come to do that. Is there anything you would add to that, Mark, before I move on? Have I missed anything?
No, I don't think so. My apologies. I got the information incorrect. The next forum is about use of video in social media, and June the 20th at 7:30 p.m. is about photography. So
Right.
that is what will be coming up. And but no, I think you are correct. I think that is all good in regards to notice boards.
Phew. That's great. So if you use Facebook for yourself, you might have also come across other engaging content such as videos, and even clips that could be, I'm trying to think how to describe it now. So it might be an image, and then over the top, there's some audio that you can listen to rather than it being a video of some activity that's going on. So another way to engage with people using Facebook is to create content. And I'm aware content is a really open word because there is so much that you can create now, that you can put onto Facebook. And use of this content, so it could be a meditation, it could be a video, is like looking through a window into the atmosphere of your church. So if you were to record a clip of your church or community's playgroup, for example, of course, making sure that you have permission from parents and children over the age of 12 to use their image. But if you were to record a 30-second video or even a soundbite of the playgroup in your church, that is a really great way for people to see what happens in your church during that playgroup. And it could be really invitational for local parents or grandparents or carers who might be looking for somewhere to take their children at that time of day on that day. Other examples might be if you are aware of a choir in your church or circuit, you could record them singing a song and you can share that. And again, that shares some of the atmosphere of what you experience on a Sunday morning or whenever you meet. And those things are really great for people to see, in that if they are looking for a new church or if they're thinking about where they might go, they can really get a feel for what it is like if they step through your doors. Instagram and Canva. Sorry, go on, Mark.
No, I was just about to say, I think I'm trying not to second guess your notes. I think what we had said in our preparations for this meeting is that when you kind of create content, I know that's a very marketing kind of phrase, so we use that begrudgingly, but it's kind of a way to show a little bit of a digital shop window, a little bit of an opportunity to look in and see the authentic and genuine characteristics of your church, of your meeting group. And I think that is something that I'll mention later on about being genuine and authentic, because a lot of people who are used to Facebook and stuff like that can see through kind of fake hospitality, fake kind of engagement. They're after the real deal, and especially when there is so much of it out there, it's really helpful to kind of just be genuine and try not to push ourselves. So, but this kind of engagement is good when it's genuine, and it works well when it's kind of homegrown and people can see that. And so actually, I think whilst we may have this idea of, oh well, I'm just trying to think of a big corporation, McDonald's, Starbucks, other eateries and things are available, when they kind of have these well polished, glossy, multi-billion pound kind of engagement projects, campaigns. Actually, it's okay for us to be just to hobble along and do our thing, because it shows our humanity, and I think that is a real good opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. I totally agree with that, Mark. And I think I had a really interesting conversation with somebody last year who was not somebody from our district. They were somewhere else in the country, and they clearly felt a real pressure to, if they were going to live stream or anything like that, they really felt it needed to be perfect. And I think sometimes we lose a lot when we aim for perfection, because it results in us not doing anything at all. And thank God, he actually doesn't ask us for perfection, he just asks us to try. So I'm always really mindful of that. I feel like that's really permissive when I am trying to make sure that we put things out that people will really want to engage with. and that people will hopefully really want to reflect on, because I might not have made it as I would like to. I might not have the time or the resources to do that, but I have this confidence that God will put that in front of the right person as long as I just try. So yeah, I totally agree with you there, Mark. That's the point. So yeah, so it's about showcasing a little more of what your church's demographic and atmosphere and culture is like. And I think it's fair to say that since the pandemic, people have felt generally a lot more anxious about stepping into new environments. We for all of us, our worlds really shrunk during the pandemic. And then stepping back out into the real world for a lot of people was quite overwhelming. And even where they've had to do that, it's still inciting a lot of anxiety. And so, something that's really beautiful about using digital spaces is that we can help to reduce that anxiety and even help people to overcome it by sharing what we're doing in that digital space so they can view that at home where they're safe, where they can make a fair assessment. And then when they step through the doors, yeah, they sort of know a little bit about what to expect, and hopefully there's a bit of comfort in that. So having engaging content also it can add value to people's lives, and that sounds like a really commercial thing to say, but actually now, because of the wealth of information that we are subjected to, I read this morning that in one 24-hour period, we take in more information now than people 100 years ago did in their entire lifetimes. And so people are discerning to an extent about what information they take in. So when they're on Facebook and they're scrolling through, they will be making decisions unconsciously about what they're choosing to skip. So if you have something really engaging, and it might just be an eye-catching photo, or it might be a short video clip, something like that, if you have something really engaging, that's going to cause them to pause and to think about what it is that you're doing within your communities. And it also shares an understanding of your community. It shows that the church is still present in the community, that we still have a relevance, and that we want to support people. A couple of weeks ago, I came across the term someone had used for churches, which was the National Help Service, because we do so much to help and support our communities. And I absolutely loved that. It made me feel really excited because I thought if we can share the ways in which we're helping and supporting our communities, we're showing that we're still relevant at a time when the media would tell us that we're not. So yeah, I need to stop there before I get really excited.
That's great. I think in regards to this engaging thing, it is about, and as you say, about the amount of information people can see, people can scroll through, whether it's on Facebook or other platforms. Yeah, because we are bombarded by information nowadays, it's up to us to kind of sort of say, what are we offering? And it's to kind of not just to kind of regurgitate the same old, actually kind of go, you know what, it's almost to have like a bit of a strategy, dare I say, to sit down and kind of go, actually, this month or this week, is there anything going on in the church that we could share a little bit about? Is there something maybe, and you might want to kind of say, okay, let's say March is coming. Is there something in March that we want to highlight? Is there something
Yes.
in the first week we want to do, second week we want to do? And rather than bombarding people with kind of, oh, well, I had coffee this morning and at lunchtime, you know, or we've got a property and finance meeting, you know, it, whilst that's interesting and it is like part of your diary, it's not necessarily going to engage with people. Not to say that property and finance can't be engaging, but it's just kind of pondering about what would be interesting for others to be able to see a bit of a glimpse of, and this is just yet one of the many ways. And you know, I'm realizing I'm saying this with a digital hat on, but you know, digital is just one aspect of how we communicate our church. And I'm going to use something that my granddad, who used to be a local preacher, used to talk about preaching. He used to sort of say about tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. So I'm going to say that again. Tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. So what you can do is say, in a couple of weeks, we have this service going on. And then hopefully you kind of share that and reshare it a couple of times. You don't have to reproduce the same stuff. And then as you get to it, say, oh, just a reminder, today we're open. Or you could say, if it's a coffee morning, we're open now, 10 till 12, pop in if you like. And then if there is something like a messy church or something like that, which you can take photos of without affecting safeguarding or GDPR. These are big things, by the way, which, you know, we've got to be careful of, or to be aware of. But I tend to, when I do a messy church or otherwise, I will just take photos of the craft. And as long as it hasn't got somebody's clear name on it, it shows that something's creatively been going on. I've got 2 children, so I don't mind taking photos of my own children, or at least their hands doing something. It's just like a way of showing that this is the material that we've done. And you can sort of say, oh, for those people who didn't come, here's a little bit of a glimpse of what we did today. And so it just kind of shows some sort of like genuine interaction in building. And therefore it's kind of just gently building up that engagement to say, you know, we've kind of given a notice, like as we said about notice boarding stuff. And then this is just like a reminder, because hopefully that is worthwhile information. Oh yeah, that dropped off my radar. Oh yeah, I'll come in, or I won't come this time, but I'll put it in the diary for next time. And then just again to kind of offer something that of the engagement itself. So it can be like an hour later, it can be a day later, say, oh, by the way, if you missed this, here is a little glimpse. And so that again is kind of showing a bit of that digital digital window into the life of the church. So hopefully that's kind of a little bit of an example of how we can go from notice boarding into engagement, and it's like helpful information that it's not just kind of going, oh, I wonder why the sky's blue today. Actually, it's kind of offering worthwhile conversation or worthwhile questions, or dare I say a prayer or a picture, or like a, you know, you could skip the middle section if you wanted to, if you didn't feel kind of as comfortable to remind people or to hassle people. You know, you could just sort of say, you know, here is what we did at this coffee morning, or here is a lovely picture of what we did at this all age worship that we did, you know, and having a picture of the craft or the thing.
Yeah, I think that's great. And sorry, Mark, just to add, so I'm aware that we've perhaps been a little bit unhelpful in that we've used the word content, which is really open and the right word to use, but I appreciate that's very open. And then we've made a couple of suggestions. So I will put together a list of potential content ideas that we can send out we can put on the district website probably in a week or so's time, just to give you some suggestions of ways that you might start if you do want to produce something that is perhaps more engaging than using just posters and photos and text.
I think in a moment I'm going to segue into a digital community, but I think it is important to talk about, we've talked about GDPR and safeguarding, but as the more that we engage with communities and kind of open ourselves to people, the great thing about Facebook is that it is designed in such a way that you can give individual users various what's the word?
Permissions.
Yeah, permissions to administrate the space. And so far we haven't really kind of talked about, you can kind of, on Facebook you can log in as yourself as an individual, but then you can create things such as Facebook pages and Facebook groups. What I will say is that ever since I've been kind of engaging with Facebook and various social media, it's really important to say that these spaces keep on evolving. And so therefore what is relevant kind of one year can kind of adapt and change. And once upon a time, it used to be really text heavy, as Emily kind of said, but then it kind of nowadays, because of the competition through other social media platforms, it seems to tweak and change to adapt to say, oh, look, we are still relevant. So what started off just being text based was very much kind of in opposition to Twitter, and then kind of Instagram came along where it was like, oh, we need to do pictures, and then kind of TikTok has come along where it's, yeah, we need to be snappy, we need to do really quick videos and engaging, and we've got to kind of put everything within 30 seconds. And so therefore that's where kind of the progression goes, is that they're trying to be more and more multimedia as we go along. Anyway, that's by the by. But the engagement sort of stuff. Oh, sorry. In regards to Facebook pages and groups, they're two quite distinct entities. Facebook pages is almost the equivalent of a website. And so I would encourage you to use it as a website, as to say, you can kind of put your name of your church together, have an address, and if people already use your building, they may already tag the location of where they use, and they'll say, oh, I went to Weight Watchers in the church hall. And if a page doesn't exist, then Facebook, if a number of people will start using it, Facebook will naturally kind of just generate a generic page for that venue. So you may find that because we're a number of years into Facebook now, that your church already has like a generic location, and it won't be owned by anybody, but you may just have to say, oi, Facebook, that's actually ours. And I think they write to you. I think the last time I did it, they actually sent something through the post. Amazing. And so you just have to say, look, yeah, I'm the official person for this, and they'll hand it over to you onto that email address, onto your username, and therefore you can just kind of create content. You can put up pictures, and you can kind of share information that way. You can set up the settings to say only the administrators can share information, and so that can be an official kind of signposting. A notice board, should I say. That can be an official place to kind of share official information. The second element is Facebook groups. And again, you've got to dive into the settings here. The main settings is whether it's a public or a private group. If it is a private group, then nobody can really see inside it, can see any of the content from it. Whereas a public group, you can kind of set to that people can see stuff, but you can change the settings of whether people can comment on it or not. And over the years, Facebook has kind of separated these two. At one point, they're very similar, but they've tried to kind of galvanize and say actually that they contrast quite a bit. There is also nowadays this thing called AI, artificial intelligence. I know we kind of roll our eyes, but actually Facebook have been using it for a number of years now. And the way that they use it now is to say that within these groups, you could sit down and accept everybody or reject anybody on your own, in your own time. But Facebook for groups, and they have actually now set up like an AI administrator to help you. So you can say, what questions would you like people to ask? So for example, in our district Facebook group, it will sort of say, you know, do you belong to, or do you know, I think we've got these questions on anyway, we should have.
Yeah, we have 3 automated questions. Is anybody in the district Facebook group? You want to just like raise your hand if you've joined it? No, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, some people. And so, yeah, it asks certain questions of like, you know, are you part of this district already? In Methodist Online, I think we have 4 questions, and one of them sort of says, you know, are you interested in Methodism? Do you know that this is a UK-based Facebook group? Are you, I've forgotten. It's something like, are you aware that we don't kind of add groups or pages, and this is just for individuals? So again, it's just to try and kind of sieve through the potential scammers and spammers, and so people trying to copy your identity, or people trying to get in there and trying to get money out of people. Unfortunately, that does happen. The one downside of what I will say is that there is a certain characteristic of a scammer who will have just a couple of Facebook profile pictures, very little content, and will try to come across quite genuine, and their kind of posts and things are a little bit irregular and things like this, and so that's the kind of profile a scammer has. Unfortunately, on the other side, we have some Methodists who don't really use Facebook very much, who have very limited photos, don't post very much, and don't always engage with very regularly. And so sometimes we're kind of going, is that a real person or is that not a real person? It's really hard to say. And so we've just got to kind of either investigate their profile, look through it and kind of go, oh, look, they've tried to sell knockoff Ray-Bans glasses over the last year. Okay. And it's the sort of kind of processes we've got to go through. Fortunately, the AI stuff can automatically go through those questions and answers, and therefore there it is actually there to help us to kind of make some assessments. Sometimes you might get a message going, "Oh, I've tried to join your group and you've deleted me," and you're going to go, "Oh, sorry," and you can look back over, especially when you're at a desktop, all these settings and things you can look through on a desktop very easily, and just make sure that they are doing it correctly. And so there is kind of things there that should hopefully help you run a group, run a page. What I will also say is it's really important, especially for safeguarding, and yeah, and just kind of to look out for self really, that I would recommend that you have more than one administrator, and that you have kind of maybe a private message group within your administration people to be able to share and kind of question and sort of say, look, am I right? Is this correct? And so you're kind of putting in safeguards for yourself um, as well as kind of making sure that you are accountable to somebody else. And I think that accountability is helpful. It also means that you can future-proof the community, so that unfortunately, if your identity gets, or your profile gets pinched or anything like that, or dare I say, if somebody passes away, you at least have somebody else to back it out on. What I've also had before is if an argument flares up and the one person who runs the group leaves the church, they go, oh, right then, delete, or no, not going to let people in. It's important to kind of put people in place to kind of be accountable. And this may also be encouraging to do through a church council, to do it officially. I think over the last 10 years or so, a lot of these groups have just naturally sprung up. And so we don't want to step on anybody's feet with how these groups have gone, but actually to formalize some of these arrangements can really help. And again, it's to, if you've got somebody who's running it and has been running it and you've never put it through church council, maybe it's a good thing just to have a coffee with them to say, look, can we just chat about this? And this isn't to undermine anything that you've done, but it's about accountability and to make sure that we are doing everything properly and professionally, as this is the digital face of the church. And so to make sure that we have access to safeguarding or GDPR kind of policies and things like that, so people can see the front of the Facebook kind of page or the group and still see that it is still representing officially the local church in the setting. And what I will also say is, and just be careful of something called, what I call, I don't know if it's a natural, an official term for it, is the bank holiday principle. And over the 10 years of doing Methodist Online, I have found that certainly coming towards a bank holiday weekend, there'll be somebody who puts something on the page, on the group, that they've not really thought 100% through, or they are purposely trying to bait you, to really kind of prod the church or otherwise, or they're in a moment of tiredness, they've kind of had a bit of a rant. And you can guarantee it's going to happen over a bank holiday weekend when your administrators aren't around or if you're on a holiday. And so what I'll just say, just be careful of, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. But just be careful. And that's another reason why having another administrator around, so that there's at least one pair of eyes that can look into the page when you're on holiday or in your downtime. So that's all about kind of engagement. The final thing is about digital community, and digital community just adds on to the processes already of the notice boards, of engaging with people in and around. And I think digital community can happen in one of two ways, especially for church. One is that I'm just going to have to bring up my notes so I can get the right wording. One is about digital community is about cultivating a digital church digitally. That means that through what we've talked about, through posting content, posting questions, regularly kind of checking in with people. Just last week, was it, or was it the week before? We had Elmo from Thingy Street. What is it called?
Sesame Street.
Sesame Street. Thank you. We had Elmo was in the press because Elmo was asking people how they're doing, and I was on Twitter, sort of saying, "Hello, everyone. How is everyone today?" You know, there is a way of that we can just kind of just gently talk to people, engage in conversation with people, and there are just the way in which social media evolves and changes. There are just so many ways in which we can check in with people or to kind of create engagement. What I will say, an example that I've always used is in my very first church appointment. I used to get notice sheets from one of my stewards, and I used to get a load of emails in. And yet there was one chappie who was retired, and alongside the notice sheet, he would say, "Morning, folks. Today I've been feeding the squirrel." And you'd be like, "What?" And actually, from week to week, he would be telling this story about this squirrel, and every week he would feed it on a Monday morning. On the same time, he'd send out his email stuff, and it was engaging. And when you met him in person, you'd go, "How's the squirrel?" And he'd go, "Oh, it's all right, thank you." And it was just a really kind of human kind of expression. He didn't have to write that in, but the way that he did, and he just kind of made a narrative, made a story about it. It was just lovely. And so I kind of thought that's really helpful as to an example just through an email. And I think you can do this in a very simple engagement of being a genuine story. Please don't make them up. You know, but by kind of saying, look, you know, this is where we are today. I am going to use Methodist Online as an example. We have a weekly coffee morning, and I will sort of say, you know, we're in a virtual place. You know, gather, share a bit about your day, share a photo of your cuppa wherever you are, and I will actually make something up and pretend about our non-existing building, and I'll sort of say, "Oh, we're clearing out the cupboards," and people engage with it, and people go, "Oh, yeah, you know, well, we've kind of cleaned out our church, you know," or look, I'm dealing with this today. It's kind of entering into a bit of a narrative, a bit of a genuine kind of sharing, and I will share a bit about my actual day and things like this, and it just kind of allows people to say, "Oh, actually, this person is authentic and genuine what they're sharing." So that is one way of which we can engage with maybe a bit of a comment with a little bit of text. A photo often helps because I think it's eye-catching. The other thing is, so that is kind of cultivating a digital church digitally. There is another way, and I think we've already kind of pushed upon this already, is about cultivating a physical church digitally, and sort of talking about something that's happened physically in a building and kind of relayed some of those pictures back. But you could also go a little bit step further with that by sort of saying, well, not just kind of relaying a photo, we could also broadcast something like a service or a meeting. We could sort of invite people to come in and engage with it in a different way. And therefore it's kind of making your physical building accessible digitally. And so that is requiring, maybe, dare I say, some technology, some ways in which you could have a hybrid conversation. So this morning we've been doing a book club, which we just started for Lent, and I've said, because people have asked for it, we've offered it in a digital capacity as well, so that people can kind of log in, and we've got a camera that has got a 360-degree camera, and that people can log in at home, and it's also connected to a sub speaker. I've got a review of it actually that's come up, we've done a little video of it, so it can show you the piece of technology and how it works. But it enables people to log in from home and be part of the room physically in the church. And that's another way of kind of inviting people over the threshold into a physical church by allowing them access through a digital means, if that makes sense. And so this is just kind of, again, adding on to the notice board, the engagement, to be part of a digital community. And you'll find that people kind of start to engage with, that's what you're sharing. Something else that I do, part of this role really, is my research into something called faith and geekery. And I'm finding that I'm having conversations now with people kind of who I'm bumping into as part of church ministry, going, oh yeah, that video that you do. And I kind of go, oh, what video? Because I've done a lot of videos. And they go, oh, faith and geekery. And I go, oh, okay. And it's interesting that people kind of are chatting to me, because I've been quite chatting to them through cameras, that they kind of have got to know me. And it's quite strange that they kind of are very much more chatty to me, even though I don't know them. It's been quite nice having this kind of engagement and this kind of building of community. And we can use not just Facebook. There are other ways of which we can kind of, Facebook is just one tool to kind of help create a digital community, or to help cultivate digital access to a physical community. But yeah, it's a good place to start, if that makes sense. Emily, have I missed anything, or is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I think that's everything. I think a question that I think about. So I mentioned earlier that I run a life group for mums, for women, and that happens fortnightly on a Thursday evening. And I think the question that I asked myself when I first set the group up was, what were the barriers for us as mums for building community within our church? So we would go on a Sunday. I happen to go to quite a large church, so I would often see people that I knew, but I wouldn't see lots of people that I've been hoping to bump into. And so that was the question that I asked, was what were the barriers for us to building community? And it was things like returning to work, kids' bedtimes, kids being poorly, school, all those sorts of things. So if you acknowledge that there are barriers in your local community to people stepping foot in your church, the digital space can be a really good way to overcome those barriers. And as Mark said, it's not that one thing precludes the other, but that was just a really helpful question for me. So maybe that's helpful for you too.